Do you remember those classic suppers that once filled family tables, now tucked away in dusty Better Homes and Gardens cookbooks? These meals turned simple ingredients into comforting, memorable dinners that everyone looked forward to. Somehow, we let them fade into the background, replaced by fast food and convenience meals. Today, we're bringing back 30 of these forgotten favorites, one delicious, nostalgic recipe at a time. Victory Garden Vegetable Stew. During the dark days of the 1940s, when sugar, butter, and meat were tightly rationed and grocery store shelves were far from full, many American families turned to their own backyards for survival. The government encouraged households to plant victory gardens, transforming every patch of lawn, vacant lot, and city rooftop into a source of fresh produce. Out of this effort came countless frugal dishes, but few were as beloved or as practical as Victory Garden Vegetable Stew. This humble supper was built on whatever the garden had to give: carrots pulled straight from the soil, sturdy cabbage leaves, fat green beans, and starchy potatoes. Some families added a handful of barley or beans to stretch the meal, while others brightened it with a splash of vinegar or a pinch of dried herbs. Meat, if it appeared at all, was usually just a few scraps of salt pork or a leftover ham bone to give the broth flavor. The genius of the dish was its flexibility. It wasn't about following a recipe so much as using what you had and wasting nothing. For many families, this stew wasn't just dinner. It was a symbol of resilience. It bubbled away on wood stoves while children weeded garden rows and mothers canned extra vegetables for winter. Sitting down to a steaming bowl felt like a small victory, a reminder that even in lean times, there could be warmth and comfort at the table. Today, we might think of this as farm-to-table cooking, but back then, it was simply life. With rising food costs and renewed interest in sustainability, perhaps there's something to be learned from those old victory gardens and from a pot of stew that fed a nation through hardship and hope. Salmon loaf. Once upon a time, before salmon was a prized delicacy served on cedar planks at trendy restaurants,
I would show you how to make this very easy and delicious salmon loaf.
It was a humble pantry staple. In the mid-20th century, canned salmon was a thrifty cook's best friend. Affordable, shelf-stable, and packed with protein. It found its way into school lunches, church potlucks, and weekday dinners across America, and one of the most popular ways to serve it was baked into a hearty, no-nonsense salmon loaf. The beauty of salmon loaf was its simplicity. A single can of salmon could stretch to feed an entire family when mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, a splash of milk, and a few seasonings. Some cooks added finely chopped onions or celery for crunch, while others relied on a squeeze of lemon juice or a dollop of mustard to brighten the flavor. It was shaped into a tidy loaf, baked until firm, and often served with a creamy white sauce or a generous spoonful of ketchup on top. For many households, this dish was more than just a frugal choice. It was a reminder of the creativity and resilience that defined mid-century cooking. During times when fresh fish was expensive or hard to come by, canned salmon made it possible to enjoy a taste of the sea without straining the family budget. Better Homes and Gardens featured it as a wholesome, dependable supper, perfect for busy weeknights or Sunday dinners after church. Today, salmon loaf has mostly vanished from the dinner table, pushed aside by salmon fillets, sushi rolls, and smoked lox. Yet, there's something deeply nostalgic about this forgotten dish. It speaks to an era when cooks knew how to make the most of every ingredient and turn the simplest of pantry goods into a meal that felt nourishing, comforting, and just a little bit special. Creamed chipped beef on toast. There was a time when a plate of creamed chipped beef on toast was considered the height of homey comfort food. Today, it might seem like an odd relic.
Creamed chipped beef on toast, sometimes called SOS.
A dish built from little more than dried beef, milk, and bread. But for much of the 20th century, it was a staple of both military mess halls and family breakfast tables. Its origins stretch back to the early 1900s, when preserving beef by salting and drying made it cheap, portable and long-lasting. During the World Wars, the military embraced it as an easy way to feed thousands of soldiers. In that setting, it earned a rather infamous nickname, SOS, which, depending on who you asked, stood for stuff on a shingle or something a little less polite. Soldiers might have complained about the monotony of eating it day after day, but when they came home, many brought the taste with them, passing it along to their families. The dish itself was simple but deeply satisfying. Thin slices of salty dried beef were simmered in a creamy white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk, then poured generously over toasted bread. It was cheap, filling, and easy to make, all qualities prized by frugal home cooks, especially during the lean years of the Great Depression and wartime rationing. For many households, creamed chipped beef on toast became a weekend breakfast tradition or a quick weeknight supper. Today, it has largely faded from menus, replaced by flashier brunch items and grab-and-go breakfasts. Yet, for those who grew up with it, the sight of that creamy sauce soaking into crispy toast can bring back memories of bustling kitchens, crowded tables, and a time when a little dried beef could stretch a long way toward feeding a hungry family. Macaroni and tomatoes. In the 1930s and 1940s, when the Great Depression left families stretching every penny and World War II rationed meat, macaroni and tomatoes emerged as a humble but beloved supper. It wasn't glamorous and it certainly wasn't fancy, but it was reliable, filling, and made from ingredients that most households could keep on hand without straining the grocery budget. For many, it was the kind of dish that could feed a family of 5 without requiring a single expensive cut of meat.
Macaroni and tomatoes, y'all. Y'all like that? It's a good size.
The magic of macaroni and tomatoes lay in its simplicity. Elbow macaroni, cooked until tender, was combined with a tomato-based sauce that might include canned tomatoes, a spoonful of tomato paste, or even leftover tomato juice from the garden. Seasonings were modest, perhaps a pinch of sugar to balance the acidity, a dash of salt, and a sprinkling of black pepper. Some cooks added a bit of cheese or a pat of butter on top, turning a basic pasta dish into something creamy and satisfying. It was frugal cooking at its finest, adaptable, forgiving, and completely unpretentious. For families, this dish was more than a way to fill hungry stomachs. It was comfort in a bowl, a warm reminder of home during uncertain times. Children grew up associating the tangy, slightly sweet tomato sauce with cozy kitchens and the smell of boiling pasta. Mothers and fathers appreciated that it was quick to prepare, easy to stretch, and could be made with whatever tomatoes were in season or in the pantry. Today, macaroni and tomatoes may feel like a lost relic, overshadowed by gourmet pasta dishes, fast food, and frozen meals. Yet, revisiting it now offers more than nostalgia. It is a reminder of a time when resourcefulness was a necessity, and a simple, humble meal could nourish both body and spirit. In every spoonful, there is history, practicality, and a quiet kind of comfort that modern convenience rarely replicates. Liver and onions. Once a staple of the mid-century American dinner table, liver and onions is a dish that today evokes strong reactions.
Liver and onions, y'all. Okay?
Either fond nostalgia or polite avoidance. In the 1930s through the 1950s, organ meats were far from exotic. They were prized for their affordability and nutrition. Liver, whether beef, veal, or chicken, was packed with iron, vitamin A, and other nutrients, making it an ideal choice for families trying to stretch a limited budget while keeping everyone healthy. Paired with the sweetness of caramelized onions, it became a surprisingly elegant way to serve a humble ingredient. Preparation was straightforward but demanded attention. Thin slices of liver were dredged lightly in flour, seasoned, and then sautéed in butter or drippings until just browned, while onions cooked slowly in the same pan until golden and fragrant. The combination of rich, earthy liver and tender, sweet onions created a flavor profile that was simultaneously hearty and comforting. Some cooks added a splash of vinegar or a sprinkle of sugar to enhance the onions, turning a simple dish into a nuanced centerpiece for the family table. For many households, liver and onions was more than a practical meal. It was a rite of passage. Children learned early to appreciate its bold taste, and families often considered it a sign of thrift and good cooking to serve it well. It frequently appeared alongside mashed potatoes and gravy, a classic mid-century pairing that reflected the era's love of substantial, straightforward dinners. Today, liver and onions has largely disappeared from modern menus, replaced by leaner cuts of meat and milder flavors. Yet for those who remember it, the dish carries a sense of resilience and practicality, a reminder that good cooking doesn't always require expensive ingredients. In every tender slice of liver and every sweet onion ring, there's history, nutrition, and a taste of the era when families made the most of what they had and turned it into something unexpectedly satisfying. Chicken a la king. There was a time, particularly in the 1950s and 60s, when chicken a la king was the epitome of mid-century elegance at home. It wasn't just dinner, it was a statement. The dish had its origins in the early 1900s, reportedly created by a hotel chef or perhaps a resort cook named William King. Regardless of its exact origin, by the post-war era,
Showing you how to make chicken a la king.
it had become a beloved way for American homemakers to turn leftover chicken into something that felt sophisticated, creamy, and just a touch indulgent. The dish is deceptively simple. Tender chunks of chicken are folded into a velvety sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and a hint of sherry or cream. Peppers, mushrooms, and pimientos often join the mix, adding color and subtle layers of flavor. Traditionally, it would be served over buttered toast, rice, or even flaky pastry shells, giving it a presentation that made a weekday meal feel like a special occasion. Its charm lay in its ability to transform modest ingredients into something visually appealing and deeply satisfying. For families in the mid-century era, chicken a la king represented both resourcefulness and aspiration. Leftover chicken, perhaps from Sunday dinner or a holiday roast, could be stretched into multiple servings with the addition of pantry staples. The creamy sauce and vibrant vegetables elevated the dish, making it appear more luxurious than it really was. It was the kind of meal that invited conversation around the table, a dish that demonstrated care and effort without breaking the household budget. Today, chicken a la king is rarely seen outside of retro cookbooks or nostalgic dinner parties, replaced by modern casseroles, creamy pasta dishes, or takeout alternatives. Yet revisiting it reminds us of a time when elegance didn't require expense, and when home cooks had the confidence to make the ordinary feel special. In every spoonful, there's history, comfort, and a quiet nod to ingenuity in the American kitchen. Ham and potato scallop. In the 1950s and 1960s, the ham and potato scallop was a familiar and comforting sight on American family tables. This simple casserole, layered with thinly sliced potatoes and bits of leftover ham, reflected an era when home cooks valued frugality, practicality,
We'll be making a scalloped potato and ham casserole. Now, if you want to prep a
and the ability to transform modest ingredients into a hearty meal. With the post-war boom bringing more families into the suburban kitchen, casseroles like this became the backbone of weeknight dinners, church potlucks, and Sunday suppers. The preparation was straightforward but required a touch of care. Potatoes were peeled and sliced evenly. Ham was chopped into small pieces, and both were layered in a buttered baking dish. A creamy sauce made from milk, a bit of butter, and flour tied the layers together, ensuring every bite was tender and flavorful. Some cooks sprinkled a little grated cheese on top for added richness, while others kept it simple, letting the natural sweetness of the ham shine through. Baked until golden and bubbling, the ham and potato scallop was more than nourishment. It was a warm invitation to sit down, share a meal, and linger at the table. This dish carried emotional weight as well as culinary practicality. It was often a solution to the weekly challenge of stretching leftovers into something new and satisfying. Families could feed several people without extra expense, and children grew up associating the comforting aroma of baking potatoes and savory ham with home and security. Today, ham and potato scallops have largely faded from contemporary kitchens, replaced by quicker, flashier meals or pre-packaged convenience foods. Yet revisiting this classic reminds us of a time when dinner meant more than just feeding the body. It was about resourcefulness, family, and the simple pleasures of a warm, homemade dish. In every creamy, layered slice, there's history, ingenuity, and a taste of mid-century America's heart. Stuffed green peppers. Stuffed green peppers were a mid-century American classic, a dish that balanced thrift, nutrition, and a little culinary showmanship. Popularized in the 1950s and 60s, they were a way for homemakers to turn simple ingredients into a visually impressive meal. The dish offered both practicality and flair, transforming humble bell peppers into edible vessels brimming with a mixture of ground meat, rice, and seasoning. It was a family dinner that looked like it required hours of work but could be assembled relatively quickly, making it perfect for busy households. The beauty of stuffed green peppers lay in their versatility. Depending on what was available, cooks could fill them with ground beef, pork, or even a mixture of both, combined with cooked rice to stretch the protein. Seasonings were simple: salt, pepper, onions, and occasionally garlic or a pinch of paprika, yet they elevated the dish from ordinary to satisfying. A tomato-based sauce, often poured over the tops, added moisture, flavor, and a touch of color, creating a casserole-like effect once the peppers baked in the oven. For many families, the resulting dish was not only hearty, but also an invitation to linger at the table, savoring the combination of sweet peppers, tender meat, and savory rice. Beyond its flavor and frugality, stuffed green peppers held emotional resonance. They were often a centerpiece at Sunday dinners, a dish that mothers and grandmothers passed down with subtle variations and personal touches. Preparing them was a ritual of care, a way to show love through effort and attention to detail. Today, stuffed green peppers are less common in American kitchens, replaced by quicker casseroles or pre-packaged frozen meals. Yet revisiting them offers a window into a time when family meals were both practical and meaningful, when a humble pepper could carry the weight of tradition, resourcefulness, and home-cooked comfort. In every baked, savory bite, there is nostalgia, history, and a reminder of the joy found in simple, thoughtful cooking. Beef stroganoff. Beef stroganoff made its way into American kitchens in the mid-20th century, arriving with a touch of European elegance and a promise of comfort in a single pan.
Making classic beef stroganoff with tender strips of beef and
Originally a Russian dish, it was adapted for American home cooks in the 1950s and 60s, becoming a beloved dinner for families seeking something both hearty and slightly sophisticated. At its core, it was a dish that balanced affordability with indulgence, turning modest cuts of beef into a creamy, flavorful meal that could satisfy adults and children alike. The preparation was straightforward yet satisfying. Strips of beef, often from cheaper cuts like round steak or sirloin tips, were quickly sautéed and then simmered in a sauce made from sour cream, onions, and a bit of flour to thicken. Mushrooms frequently joined the mix, adding earthy depth and texture, while a splash of beef broth or a hint of mustard brightened the creamy sauce. The dish was traditionally served over a bed of buttered noodles or rice, soaking up the sauce and creating a meal that was both filling and comforting. Beef stroganoff resonated with families for more than just its taste. In a post-war America eager for sophistication but still mindful of budgets, it was a way to bring something slightly exotic to the dinner table without breaking the bank. It became a staple of Sunday dinners, potlucks, and even weekday meals for busy households, proving that home cooking could be both practical and impressive. Today, stroganoff may seem a little retro, often remembered through faded cookbooks or nostalgic family stories, yet its appeal endures. Revisiting it reminds us of a time when comfort and elegance could coexist in a simple skillet. Each tender strip of beef, enveloped in creamy sauce and served over soft noodles, carries not just flavor, but a history of resourcefulness, care, and mid-century American dining culture. Tuna noodle casserole. Tuna noodle casserole was a mid-century American icon, a dish that perfectly embodied the era's devotion to practicality, frugality, and comforting simplicity. Emerging in popularity during the 1950s and 60s, it became a staple for families across the country, particularly in suburban kitchens where convenience met the desire for home-cooked warmth.
Make tuna casserole.
Using canned tuna and pantry staples, home cooks could create a meal that was both filling and reassuringly familiar, making it a dependable choice for weeknight dinners. The dish itself was delightfully straightforward. Tender noodles were combined with canned tuna, often accompanied by a can of cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup to provide a rich, creamy base. Frozen peas, chopped onions, or a sprinkling of shredded cheese might be added to enhance flavor and texture, while a crunchy topping of breadcrumbs or crushed potato chips gave the casserole a satisfying golden finish. Baked until bubbly, the resulting dish was hearty and approachable, capable of feeding a family without demanding expensive ingredients or complicated techniques. Tuna noodle casserole carried more than practical value. It had emotional resonance as well. For many, it was comfort food at its most approachable, conjuring memories of family dinners where simplicity didn't mean compromise. It was the kind of meal that could be assembled quickly after a busy day, yet still feel warm, nourishing, and complete. The creamy, cheesy layers mingled with tender noodles and savory tuna in a way that felt cozy and dependable, embodying the spirit of mid-century homemaking. Although it has largely faded from contemporary tables, replaced by fast casual meals and artisanal takes on pasta, tuna noodle casserole remains a symbol of resourcefulness and care. Revisiting it is a reminder that great home cooking doesn't require extravagance. Sometimes the humblest ingredients, combined thoughtfully and baked with patience, can create a dish that is both satisfying and timeless. Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes hold a special place in the heart of mid-century American cuisine. A messy, saucy sandwich that captured the imagination of children and adults alike. Emerging in popularity during the 1940s and 50s, this humble dish became a go-to for families seeking an easy, filling meal that could stretch a modest amount of ground beef into something satisfying for the whole family. Its appeal was immediate. Sweet, tangy, and unmistakably casual, it turned ordinary ground meat into a fun and approachable dinner. The beauty of a sloppy joe lay in its simplicity. Ground beef was browned and simmered with onions, tomato sauce, ketchup, and a hint of Worcestershire sauce, creating a rich, flavorful filling that practically demanded a soft hamburger bun to contain it. Some home cooks added bell peppers, garlic, or a pinch of sugar to perfect the balance of savory and sweet, while others relied on the basic combination of beef and tomato for a tried-and-true version. The result was messy in the best way, a dish that encouraged informal family meals and carefree eating, with plenty of napkins on hand. For families in the mid-20th century, sloppy joes were more than just a meal. They were a symbol of practicality and comfort. The dish could feed several children with minimal effort, and leftovers were easily reheated without losing their flavor. It was common fare at school, cafeterias, backyard gatherings, and busy weeknight dinners, a testament to its versatility and enduring popularity. Today, sloppy joes are often viewed with nostalgic fondness, overshadowed by gourmet burgers and fast food innovations. Yet they remain an emblem of home-cooked ingenuity. Revisiting them evokes memories of playful, bustling kitchens, of families gathered around tables with laughter and sticky fingers, and of a time when a simple, saucy sandwich could be a centerpiece of comfort, creativity, and mid-century culinary charm. Porcupine meatballs. Porcupine meatballs were a quirky yet beloved staple of mid-century American kitchens, particularly in the 1950s and 60s. The name alone could spark curiosity or chuckles at the dinner table, referring to the tiny grains of rice that poked out from the ground beef like the spines of a porcupine. Beyond the playful moniker, the dish was practical, economical, and surprisingly satisfying, offering families a way to stretch modest ingredients into a filling and flavorful meal. The preparation was straightforward. Ground beef was mixed with uncooked rice, a bit of onion, and seasonings, then formed into neat little balls and simmered gently in a tangy tomato sauce. As the rice cooked inside the meatballs, it expanded, keeping each bite tender and subtly textured. The tomato sauce tied the dish together, adding moisture, acidity, and a touch of sweetness, while the simple ingredients kept the meal affordable and accessible for busy households. Served over noodles, mashed potatoes, or even a slice of bread, porcupine meatballs became a one-dish dinner that satisfied both children and adults. For families of the mid-20th century, porcupine meatballs represented more than frugality. They were a symbol of home-cooked care, a dish that transformed basic pantry staples into something whimsical and nourishing. Children loved the idea of porcupines on their plates, and parents appreciated a meal that could feed a family without stretching the grocery budget. It was a dish that could be made ahead, stretched with additional sauce, and easily reheated for leftovers, making it ideal for weeknight dinners in bustling households. Though largely forgotten today, porcupine meatballs embody the ingenuity and warmth of mid-century American cooking. Revisiting them offers a glimpse into a time when resourcefulness met creativity, and even the simplest ingredients could be transformed into a meal that was hearty, playful, and utterly satisfying. In every tender, rice-studded bite, there is nostalgia, practicality, and a quiet celebration of home-cooked ingenuity. Meatloaf with hard-boiled egg center. Meatloaf with a hard-boiled egg center was a showstopper on mid-century American dinner tables, a dish that combined practicality with a touch of theater. Popular during the 1950s and 60s, it took the classic meatloaf, already a family favorite for its affordability and heartiness, and transformed it into something visually striking and memorable. The egg in the center added not just protein, but an element of surprise, turning an ordinary weeknight dinner into a small culinary spectacle that often elicited delighted exclamations from children and guests alike. The preparation was straightforward, though it required a little extra care. Ground beef, sometimes mixed with breadcrumbs, milk, and a beaten egg, was seasoned with onions, salt, pepper, and a hint of Worcestershire sauce, then formed into a loaf. Before baking, hard-boiled eggs were carefully arranged in a row along the center, and the meat mixture was molded around them, completely encasing the eggs. A topping of ketchup, tomato sauce, or a simple glaze of brown sugar and mustard added moisture, flavor, and a shiny, appetizing finish. As the meatloaf baked, the eggs remained intact, creating a striking cross-section when sliced. Beyond its visual appeal, the dish was deeply practical. It stretched ingredients, feeding a family of 4 or 5 without breaking the budget, and could be made ahead and reheated for leftovers. Its combination of textures, tender, seasoned meat surrounding the smooth, rich eggs, was comforting and satisfying. Though this version of meatloaf has largely disappeared from modern dinner tables, replaced by faster, simpler preparations or frozen alternatives, it remains a symbol of mid-century ingenuity. It reminds us that even the humblest ingredients can be elevated with creativity, care, and a little bit of flair. Every slice offers a glimpse into the era's resourcefulness and the warmth of family meals made memorable by thoughtful touches. Hot chicken salad. Hot chicken salad was a quintessential mid-century American comfort food, especially popular in the 1950s and 60s, when casseroles dominated the dinner table. At first glance, it seems simple. Shredded cooked chicken, a creamy sauce, and a few humble additions. Yet this dish captured the era's ethos perfectly, blending thrift, convenience, and warmth into a meal that could feed a family with minimal fuss. It was the kind of recipe that turned leftovers into something special, proving that home cooks didn't need expensive ingredients to create a satisfying supper. The preparation was straightforward. Leftover roasted or poached chicken was shredded and combined with the creamy mixture, often based on mayonnaise, cream of chicken soup, or a roux thickened milk sauce. Chopped celery added crunch, while a sprinkle of slivered almonds or pimentos could introduce color and subtle flavor. The mixture was then baked until hot and bubbling, sometimes topped with buttery crackers or breadcrumbs to add texture. Served over crisp lettuce in puff pastry shells, or simply on its own, hot chicken salad was both hearty and elegant, a true mid-century showpiece that could easily grace a Sunday dinner table or a neighborhood potluck. Beyond its flavor, hot chicken salad was emblematic of home economics and ingenuity. It made the most of every ingredient, stretching small amounts of chicken to feed a family, and could be customized to suit whatever pantry staples were on hand. It was reliable, comforting, and approachable, a dish that invited family members to gather, linger, and enjoy a warm, satisfying meal. Though it has largely faded from modern cookbooks, replaced by lighter salads or convenience foods, hot chicken salad remains a nostalgic emblem of mid-century cooking. Revisiting it offers a glimpse into an era when simple ingredients were elevated with care, creativity, and a touch of warmth, proving that even modest recipes could leave a lasting impression at the dinner table. Beef and biscuit pie. Beef and biscuit pie was a beloved mid-century American comfort dish, a simple yet hearty meal that graced many family tables in the 1950s and 60s. It exemplified the era's approach to home cooking, practical, frugal, and designed to feed a crowd without much fuss. At a time when convenience and economy were paramount, this dish offered both sustenance and warmth, transforming modest ingredients into a satisfying dinner that could be enjoyed by children and adults alike. The preparation was straightforward but relied on careful layering. Ground beef or small chunks of stewing beef were browned and simmered with onions, carrots, and sometimes peas, creating a rich, savory filling. Seasonings were kept simple, often just salt, pepper, and a touch of herbs, allowing the flavors of the meat and vegetables to shine. The topping, which gave the dish its name, was a biscuit or drop biscuit dough, arranged over the simmering filling before baking. As the pie baked, the biscuits puffed and browned, forming a golden crust that contrasted beautifully with the hearty meat beneath. The result was a one-dish meal that was visually appealing, filling, and comforting. For many families, beef and biscuit pie was more than a practical solution to feeding a household. It carried emotional resonance. It often appeared on weeknight tables, at Sunday dinners, and in church potlucks, representing home-cooked care and resourcefulness. The dish could be made ahead and reheated, stretched with inexpensive ingredients, and still emerge warm, flavorful, and inviting. Though it has largely disappeared from modern kitchens, replaced by frozen meals or quicker casseroles, beef and biscuit pie remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each golden-topped slice tells a story of practicality, warmth, and the enduring appeal of simple, thoughtfully prepared food that could turn modest ingredients into a meal worthy of the family table. Chicken Divan. Chicken Divan was a mid-century American classic, a casserole that combined elegance with homey practicality, making it a favorite in kitchens across the 1950s and 60s. The dish originated in New York's Divan restaurant in the 1920s, where it was created to highlight chicken paired with broccoli and a creamy, rich sauce. By the post-war era, it had been adapted for home cooks, becoming a symbol of sophistication that could be achieved with relatively simple ingredients. It was the kind of recipe that allowed homemakers to serve something both visually impressive and comforting without spending hours in the kitchen. The preparation was straightforward yet carefully layered. Tender cooked chicken, often left over from Sunday dinner, was combined with lightly steamed broccoli and placed in a baking dish. A creamy sauce, typically made from butter, flour, milk, and sometimes mayonnaise or sour cream, enveloped the chicken and vegetables, adding richness and moisture. Some recipes included a hint of curry or a sprinkling of cheese on top to add depth of flavor. Baked until bubbling and golden, the casserole became a centerpiece, its creamy texture and vibrant green broccoli signaling both nourishment and culinary effort. Chicken divin resonated with mid-century families because it balanced practicality with elegance. It was a way to stretch leftover chicken into multiple servings, feed a family economically, and present a dish that felt special for weeknight dinners or small gatherings. Its appeal lay in its adaptability and the comfort it provided, combining familiar flavors in a slightly refined format that elevated ordinary ingredients. Though its popularity has waned in modern kitchens, replaced by lighter casseroles or convenience foods, chicken divin remains an emblem of mid-century ingenuity. Each creamy, tender bite recalls a time when elegance could be achieved without extravagance, and when home cooks took pride in transforming everyday ingredients into memorable meals. Chop suey casserole. Chop suey casserole was a quirky fusion of American convenience and a nod to Asian flavors, gaining popularity in the 1950s and 60s when casseroles dominated the mid-century dinner table. While traditional chop suey had its roots in Chinese-American cuisine, the casserole version was a distinctly American adaptation, designed to be easy, economical, and family-friendly. It reflected the era's desire to experiment with international flavors while still relying on pantry staples and familiar cooking techniques. The dish typically began with a base of ground meat, such as beef or pork, browned and mixed with sautéed onions, celery, and sometimes bell peppers. Canned vegetables like water chestnuts or bamboo shoots were occasionally added for texture, reflecting the canned food convenience that defined mid-century cooking. The mixture was bound together with a simple sauce made from soy sauce, ketchup, or a can of cream soup, producing a savory, slightly tangy filling. Cooked noodles or rice were layered into the casserole, creating a one-dish meal that was both hearty and satisfying. Often, a topping of fried noodles, breadcrumbs, or even shredded cheese completed the dish, giving it a golden, appealing finish once baked. Chop suey casserole was emblematic of post-war American ingenuity in the kitchen. It allowed families to stretch ingredients, use leftovers creatively, and introduce a hint of exotic flair without the need for expensive or hard-to-find components. It was practical, comforting, and visually appealing, a dish that could feed a family and still impress guests at a potluck or casual gathering. Today, chop suey casserole is largely forgotten, overshadowed by more authentic Asian dishes and modern convenience foods. Yet it offers a nostalgic glimpse into a time when American cooks eagerly adapted flavors from abroad, transforming them with creativity, thrift, and practicality. Every bite is a reminder of mid-century resourcefulness, a fusion of imagination and comfort, and the enduring appeal of simple, hearty casserole. Pineapple baked ham. Pineapple baked ham was a hallmark of mid-century American holiday tables, a dish that combined the sweet tang of fruit with the savory richness of ham, creating a centerpiece both visually striking and deeply flavorful. Especially popular in the 1950s and 60s, this dish reflected the era's fascination with convenience, canned goods, and a touch of culinary showmanship. It was the kind of meal that could turn an ordinary Sunday dinner or a holiday gathering into a celebratory occasion, all while using ingredients that were readily available and relatively affordable. The preparation was deceptively simple. A pre-cooked or partially cooked ham was scored in a diamond pattern to allow the glaze to penetrate, then studded with maraschino cherries or pineapple rings for visual appeal. A glaze made from brown sugar, pineapple juice, and sometimes a splash of mustard or honey was brushed generously over the ham before baking. The sweet glaze caramelized in the oven, creating a shiny, sticky crust that balanced perfectly with the salty, savory meat beneath. The aroma alone was enough to fill the house with anticipation, signaling a special meal that invited family and friends to gather around the table. Pineapple baked ham resonated not only for its flavor, but also for its practicality. It was easy to prepare ahead of time, could feed a large group, and offered an elegant presentation with minimal effort. Families often served it alongside scalloped potatoes, green beans, and rolls, creating a colorful and abundant spread that felt celebratory even in the simplest homes. Today, pineapple-baked ham is considered a retro or kitschy dish, occasionally making appearances at holiday tables or potlucks. Yet revisiting it reminds us of mid-century American ingenuity in the kitchen, how cooks could transform humble ingredients into something festive, flavorful, and memorable. Each bite carries the warmth of tradition, the sweetness of careful preparation, and the nostalgia of a time when dinner was both practical and ceremonious. Pizza burgers. Pizza burgers were a playful, mid-century fusion food that captured the imagination of American families in the 1960s and 70s, a time when home cooks were experimenting with bold flavors and convenience-driven recipes. This dish combined the beloved simplicity of the hamburger with the tangy, cheesy appeal of pizza, creating a casual, kid-friendly meal that was as fun to make as it was to eat. In an era when casseroles with a twist, and inventive one-dish meals dominated the kitchen, pizza burgers offered a bridge between familiarity and novelty. The preparation was straightforward and adaptable. Ground beef was seasoned and shaped into patties, then cooked on the stovetop or in the oven until juicy and browned. Each patty was then topped with tomato sauce or ketchup, a sprinkling of shredded cheese, and sometimes slices of pepperoni or a dash of Italian herbs. A soft hamburger bun held everything together, and the assembled burgers were baked briefly to melt the cheese and meld the flavors. The result was a messy, cheesy, saucy sandwich that delivered all the comfort of pizza in the handheld form of a burger. Pizza burgers appealed to families because they combined affordability, flavor, and fun presentation. They were easy to prepare in batches, customizable to suit individual tastes, and perfect for busy weeknights or casual gatherings. Children were particularly drawn to the gooey cheese and savory sweet combination, while parents appreciated the practicality of a meal that could feed a crowd without fuss. Though largely forgotten today, overshadowed by fast food innovations and gourmet burger trends, pizza burgers remain a nostalgic emblem of mid-century culinary creativity. Revisiting them reminds us that home cooks of the era were unafraid to experiment, turning simple pantry staples into playful, satisfying meals. Each cheesy, saucy bite reflects a time when ingenuity and comfort coexisted, proving that even modest ingredients could spark joy at the family dinner table. Beef taco bake. Beef taco bake was a mid-century American adaptation of Mexican flavors, transformed into a casserole that suited the practical, family-focused kitchens of the 1960s and 70s. While traditional tacos required assembling multiple components for each serving, the taco bake simplified the process, turning ground beef, spices, and tortillas or chips into a single, cohesive dish that could feed a family with minimal fuss. It was an approachable, comforting meal that married familiar flavors with the convenience demanded by busy households. The preparation was straightforward, yet flavorful. Ground beef was browned with onions and seasoned with chili powder, cumin, and a touch of paprika, creating a spiced base that carried the essence of taco night. Layers of tortillas, corn chips, or even cooked rice were combined with the beef, then topped with shredded cheese and sometimes diced tomatoes or beans. A final layer of cheese or a simple sauce was added before baking, allowing the casserole to bubble, meld, and form a golden, savory crust. The result was a warm, hearty dish that offered all the satisfaction of tacos without the need for assembling each individual sandwich. Beef taco bake resonated with families for more than just its flavor. It was economical, stretching ground beef into a filling meal, and versatile, allowing substitutions based on what was available in the pantry. It was ideal for weeknight dinners, potlucks, and even casual gatherings, delivering both comfort and practicality. Children loved the cheesy, flavorful layers, while parents appreciated a recipe that minimized cleanup and maximized satisfaction. Though largely forgotten today, overshadowed by fast casual Tex-Mex options and instant taco kits, beef taco bake remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each layered, cheesy bite recalls a time when home cooks creatively adapted international flavors for American kitchens, turning simple ingredients into a meal that was both hearty and memorable. It embodies the era's commitment to practicality, flavor, and the enduring comfort of a warm, home-cooked casserole. Chicken and rice casserole. Chicken and rice casserole was a mid-century staple, a dish that embodied the era's emphasis on practicality, economy, and comforting flavors. Popular in the 1950s and 60s, it was a go-to for home cooks seeking a hearty, all-in-one meal that could feed a family without requiring expensive ingredients or complicated techniques. Its appeal lay in its simplicity: tender chicken, fluffy rice, and a creamy sauce baked together to create a dish that was both satisfying and easy to prepare. The preparation was straightforward yet versatile. Cooked or leftover chicken was shredded or cubed and combined with cooked rice, creating a base that could be easily stretched to feed a crowd. A creamy sauce, often made from canned cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup, or a homemade roux with milk and butter, enveloped the chicken and rice, binding the dish together. Vegetables like peas, carrots, or onions were often added for color, texture, and nutrition. Topped with a sprinkling of shredded cheese, breadcrumbs, or even crushed crackers, the casserole baked until golden and bubbling, producing a comforting aroma that filled the kitchen and invited family to the table. Beyond its flavor, chicken and rice casserole offered emotional and practical benefits. It allowed families to make the most of leftovers, minimizing waste while still delivering a meal that felt special. It was a dependable weeknight dinner, a contribution to church potlucks, and a dish that could be prepared ahead and reheated with ease. Though less common in modern kitchens, replaced by convenience foods or quick skillet meals, chicken and rice casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each creamy, tender bite recalls an era when practicality met comfort, when simple ingredients were elevated with care, and when home-cooked meals were both nourishing and deeply satisfying. It stands as a testament to the enduring appeal of humble, thoughtfully prepared food. Swiss steak. Swiss steak was a classic mid-century American dish, popular in the 1950s and 60s, known for its hearty flavors and practical preparation. Despite its name, the dish has little to do with Switzerland. The term Swiss refers to the tenderizing method used on the beef, which was typically pounded or scored to make it more manageable and flavorful. It became a staple for families seeking an affordable, satisfying meal that could feed a crowd without requiring expensive cuts of meat or elaborate techniques. The preparation was straightforward, though it required patience. Less tender cuts of beef, often round or chuck, were seasoned and then lightly dredged in flour before being seared to develop a rich, savory crust. The steak was then braised in a tomato-based sauce with onions, bell peppers, and sometimes carrots or celery. Slow cooking allowed the beef to become tender while absorbing the flavors of the sauce, resulting in a dish that was both comforting and hearty. The sauce was thick and flavorful, perfect for spooning over mashed potatoes, rice, or buttered noodles, making Swiss steak a complete and satisfying meal. Swiss steak resonated with mid-century families not only because of its flavor, but also for its practicality. It allowed home cooks to transform inexpensive, tougher cuts of beef into a tender, flavorful entree that could stretch to feed a family. Its slow-cooked nature made it ideal for busy households, as it could simmer on the stove or in the oven while other tasks were completed. Though it has largely fallen out of favor in modern kitchens, replaced by quicker cuts and convenience meals, Swiss steak remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each forkful of tender beef and rich tomato sauce recalls a time when resourcefulness, patience, and home-cooked care created meals that were both practical and deeply satisfying. It is a testament to the enduring appeal of simple, hearty comfort food. Salisbury steak. Salisbury steak was a quintessential mid-century American comfort food, widely enjoyed in the 1950s and 60s as a hearty, home-cooked alternative to restaurant fare. Named after Dr. James H. Salisbury, who advocated a meat-centered diet in the 19th century, the dish evolved over the decades into a beloved weekday supper. It offered families a practical way to stretch ground beef into a flavorful, filling meal, making it an essential part of post-war home cooking. The preparation was simple but satisfying. Ground beef was seasoned with salt, pepper, and sometimes onions or breadcrumbs, then shaped into oval patties resembling small steaks. The patties were browned in a skillet, locking in their juices, before being simmered in a rich, savory gravy made from beef broth, onions, and a touch of flour to thicken. The slow cooking allowed the flavors to meld, producing a tender, juicy patty with a deeply comforting sauce. Salisbury steak was traditionally served alongside mashed potatoes, buttered vegetables, or over-buttered noodles, making the meal complete, hearty, and satisfying. For mid-century families, Salisbury steak was more than just an affordable dinner. It symbolized practicality, resourcefulness, and care. It allowed home cooks to transform inexpensive ground beef into a meal that felt substantial and special, offering warmth and comfort at the family table. Children appreciated the tender, flavorful patties, while parents valued the dish's simplicity and reliability. Though less common in modern kitchens, replaced by frozen convenience meals or gourmet interpretations, Salisbury steak remains a nostalgic emblem of mid-century American cooking. Every bite of tender beef smothered in savory gravy recalls an era when frugality met flavor, and home-cooked meals were both practical and comforting. It stands as a reminder that even humble ingredients, prepared with care, can create a satisfying and enduring classic. Stuffed shells with cottage cheese. Stuffed shells with cottage cheese were a comforting and approachable casserole that graced many mid-century American dinner tables, particularly in the 1950s and 60s. Italian-American cuisine was becoming increasingly popular in the United States, and this dish offered a way to enjoy familiar flavors without requiring expensive ingredients or complicated techniques. Large pasta shells were stuffed with a creamy, cheesy filling, baked in tomato sauce, and served as a hearty, satisfying meal that could easily feed a family. The preparation was straightforward yet indulgent. Jumbo pasta shells were cooked until just tender, and then filled with a mixture of cottage cheese, sometimes combined with eggs, grated Parmesan, or shredded mozzarella to add richness and structure. Seasonings such as salt, pepper, garlic, and parsley enhanced the flavor without overpowering the creamy filling. The stuffed shells were arranged in a baking dish covered with tomato sauce, often a simple marinara or a slightly sweetened canned tomato sauce, and topped with additional cheese. Baked until bubbly and golden, The dish was visually appealing, offering a comforting balance of creamy filling, tender pasta, and savory sauce. For mid-century families, stuffed shells with cottage cheese represented both practicality and care. Cottage cheese was an economical choice, stretching the filling while providing protein and creaminess. The dish could be prepared ahead of time, making it ideal for busy weeknights or casual gatherings, and it was easy to customize with whatever herbs or cheeses were on hand. Though less common on modern tables, replaced by quick pasta dishes or restaurant-style baked pastas, stuffed shells with cottage cheese remain a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each tender, cheese-filled shell recalls a time when home cooks transformed simple ingredients into elegant, comforting meals, proving that creativity and care could make even modest dishes feel special and satisfying. Cabbage roll casserole. Cabbage roll casserole was a beloved mid-century American dish, offering all the comforting flavors of traditional cabbage rolls without the time-consuming labor of individually wrapping each leaf. Popular in the 1950s and 60s, it reflected the era's emphasis on practicality, economy, and home-cooked comfort. Families could enjoy the hearty combination of ground meat, rice, and cabbage with far less effort, making it ideal for weeknight dinners, church potlucks, and family gatherings. The preparation was simple but satisfying. Ground beef, or a mixture of beef and pork, was browned with onions and seasoned with salt, pepper, and perhaps a pinch of paprika. Layered with chopped or shredded cabbage and partially cooked rice, the meat and vegetable mixture was topped with a tomato-based sauce, sometimes enhanced with tomato paste, canned tomatoes, or a touch of sugar to balance the acidity. The casserole was then baked until the cabbage softened, the flavors melded, and the sauce thickened into a rich, savory coating that enveloped each bite. The result was a one-dish meal that offered the essence of traditional cabbage rolls while minimizing labor and maximizing comfort. Cabbage roll casserole resonated with families not only for its flavor, but also for its practicality. It allowed home cooks to stretch inexpensive ingredients into a filling and nutritious meal. The dish was versatile too. Additional vegetables could be added, and leftovers often tasted even better the next day after the flavors had mingled. Children enjoyed the tender, flavorful bites, while parents appreciated the simplicity and efficiency. Though it has largely faded from contemporary kitchens, replaced by quicker casseroles or convenience foods, cabbage roll casserole remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each forkful recalls an era when care, resourcefulness, and thoughtful preparation turned modest ingredients into meals that were both hearty and comforting, capturing the essence of home-cooked American cuisine. Zucchini and rice bake. Zucchini and rice bake was a classic mid-century American casserole, particularly popular in the 1950s and 60s when homegrown vegetables and frugal cooking were prized. For families with overflowing summer gardens, zucchini presented both a blessing and a challenge, multiplying seemingly overnight and inspiring creative ways to turn the abundant harvest into satisfying meals. This dish offered a solution, a comforting, economical casserole that combined tender zucchini with rice and a creamy, flavorful binder. The preparation was simple yet effective. Fresh zucchini was sliced or grated and lightly sautéed or steamed to soften it. Cooked rice provided substance and heartiness, while a creamy sauce, often made from milk, butter, and a touch of flour, or sometimes combined with a can of cream soup, bound the ingredients together. Onions, garlic, or a sprinkle of herbs could be added for depth, and a topping of breadcrumbs or shredded cheese created a golden, slightly crispy finish once baked. The result was a warm, nourishing casserole that was as pleasing to the eye as it was to the palate, with layers of soft, creamy zucchini and tender grains of rice blending harmoniously in every bite. For mid-century families, zucchini and rice bake was more than a practical solution for surplus produce. It embodied resourcefulness and care. It could feed a family on a budget, stretch seasonal vegetables, and even make use of leftover rice or pantry staples. Children learned to enjoy vegetables in a comforting casserole-style format, while parents appreciated the simplicity and minimal cleanup. Though largely forgotten today, overshadowed by fast food convenience and trendy vegetable dishes, zucchini and rice bake remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each creamy, tender spoonful recalls a time when home cooks transformed modest ingredients into satisfying, wholesome meals, celebrating both frugality and the quiet joy of family dining around the kitchen table. Turkey tetrazzini. Turkey tetrazzini was a quintessential mid-century American casserole, gaining popularity in the 1950s and 60s as a way to repurpose leftover turkey from holiday meals into a comforting, family-friendly dish. It exemplified the era's focus on practicality, economy, and the desire to create elegant yet approachable meals. With its creamy sauce, tender pasta, and subtle seasonings, Turkey tetrazzini offered a satisfying combination of flavors and textures that appealed to both adults and children alike. The preparation was straightforward but indulgent. Cooked turkey, often shredded from a previous holiday dinner, was combined with cooked spaghetti or egg noodles and layered in a baking dish. A creamy sauce, typically made from butter, flour, and milk, or occasionally enriched with a can of cream of mushroom soup, coated the turkey and pasta, ensuring every bite was tender and flavorful. Mushrooms, peas, or pimientos could be added for color and depth, while a topping of grated cheese or buttery breadcrumbs created a golden crust during baking. The casserole was then baked until bubbling and lightly browned, filling the kitchen with an irresistible aroma. Turkey tetrazzini was valued not only for its taste, but also for its practicality. It allowed families to stretch leftover turkey into multiple servings, reducing waste while providing a hearty, complete meal. The dish was versatile, easily customized based on pantry staples, and could be prepared ahead of time, making it ideal for busy households or casual gatherings. Though turkey tetrazzini is less common in modern kitchens, replaced by quicker reheated meals or restaurant-style pasta dishes, it remains a nostalgic emblem of mid-century ingenuity. Every creamy, cheesy bite recalls a time when home cooks transformed leftovers into something special, creating a dish that was both comforting and celebratory. It is a reminder that thoughtful preparation and simple ingredients could yield meals that were nourishing, satisfying, and timeless. Cheesy hamburger rice skillet. Cheesy hamburger rice skillet was a quintessential mid-century American comfort dish, especially popular in the 1950s and 60s, when one-pan meals were celebrated for their simplicity and practicality. It epitomized the era's approach to home cooking, affordable, hearty, and satisfying, offering a complete meal that combined protein, starch, and flavor in a single dish. This skillet became a go-to for busy families seeking an easy weeknight dinner that would please both children and adults. The preparation was straightforward yet indulgent. Ground beef was browned in a skillet with onions, garlic, and seasonings, creating a savory base. Rice, either pre-cooked or cooked in the same pan, was mixed in to absorb the flavorful juices. To elevate the dish, generous amounts of shredded cheese were stirred in, melting into a creamy, gooey coating that bound the ingredients together and added richness. Some home cooks added a can of diced tomatoes, bell peppers, or even a touch of cream soup to enhance moisture and flavor, while a sprinkle of paprika or herbs provided subtle depth. The result was a one-pan meal that was warm, hearty, and comforting, with tender rice, savory beef, and rich melted cheese in every bite. Cheesy hamburger rice skillet resonated with mid-century families, not only for its taste, but also for its practicality. It stretched inexpensive ground beef into a filling meal, could be prepared in a single skillet for minimal cleanup, and was versatile enough to accommodate whatever vegetables or pantry staples were on hand. Children loved the creamy, cheesy texture, while parents appreciated a dish that was simple, economical, and satisfying. Although it has faded from modern tables, overshadowed by trendy casseroles and fast casual meals, cheesy hamburger rice skillet remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each tender, cheesy bite recalls an era when home cooks combined practicality with flavor, transforming modest ingredients into a comforting, memorable meal for the entire family. Chili Mac was a mid-century American comfort food classic, especially popular in the 1950s and 60s as a hearty, satisfying meal that combined the best of two beloved dishes, chili and macaroni. It reflected the era's focus on practicality, economy, and family-friendly flavors, offering a one-dish dinner that could feed a crowd while remaining simple to prepare. This casserole became a staple in homes across the country, perfect for weeknight dinners, potlucks, and casual family gatherings. The preparation was straightforward yet flavorful. Ground beef was browned with onions and seasoned with chili powder, garlic, and sometimes a touch of cumin or paprika, creating a savory, slightly spicy base. Canned tomatoes and beans were often added to the mixture, enhancing the richness and creating a saucy, robust chili. Cooked macaroni was then combined with the chili, and generous amounts of shredded cheese were stirred in or layered on top. The casserole was baked until bubbling and golden, allowing the flavors to meld and the cheese to create a luscious, gooey topping. Some cooks added a sprinkling of breadcrumbs or crushed crackers for extra texture, turning the dish into a satisfying, complete meal that could be enjoyed straight from the oven. Chili Mac was more than just a practical dish. It carried emotional and cultural resonance. It was a way to stretch inexpensive ingredients, turning ground beef and pantry staples into a filling, flavorful dinner. Children loved the cheesy, hearty combination, while parents appreciated its simplicity and ability to feed a family with minimal effort. Though it has largely faded from modern tables, replaced by convenience meals or restaurant-style Tex-Mex options, Chili Mac remains a nostalgic emblem of mid-century ingenuity. Each bite of tender pasta enveloped in rich chili and gooey cheese recalls a time when home cooks transformed modest ingredients into comforting, satisfying meals that warmed both the stomach and the heart. Shepherd's pie, American style. Shepherd's pie, American style, was a comforting mid-century casserole that became a staple in kitchens across the United States during the 1950s and 60s. Unlike its British counterpart, which traditionally uses lamb, the American version usually featured ground beef, making it more affordable and accessible for families seeking a hearty, satisfying meal. It embodied the era's focus on practicality, resourcefulness, and home-cooked warmth, transforming simple ingredients into a dish that felt substantial and nourishing. The preparation was straightforward yet satisfying. Ground beef was browned with onions, garlic, and sometimes carrots or peas, creating a savory base seasoned with salt, pepper, and occasionally a splash of Worcestershire sauce. This mixture was spread into a baking dish and topped with a generous layer of mashed potatoes, often enriched with butter, milk, or cream, to achieve a smooth, creamy texture. Some cooks added a sprinkle of shredded cheese or a few dabs of butter on top to create a golden, slightly crispy finish during baking. As the casserole baked, the flavors melded together, producing a warm, comforting dish with a satisfying contrast between the savory meat and the fluffy, creamy potatoes. Shepherd's pie was especially valued for its practicality. It stretched inexpensive ground beef to feed a family, allowed for the incorporation of leftover vegetables, and could be made ahead of time or reheated with ease. Children enjoyed the creamy mashed potato topping, while parents appreciated a dish that was both filling and simple to prepare. Though less common on contemporary tables, replaced by quicker convenience foods, American-style shepherd's pie remains a nostalgic reminder of mid-century ingenuity. Each hearty, layered bite recalls a time when resourcefulness, care, and comfort were central to home cooking, proving that even the simplest ingredients, thoughtfully combined, could create a memorable, satisfying meal for the whole family. As we wrap up our trip down memory lane through these 30 classic Better Homes and Gardens cookbook suppers, it's clear that even the simplest, humblest dishes once brought families together in the kitchen. From cheesy casseroles to hearty meatloafs, these recipes remind us that comfort and creativity often go hand in hand. If any of these retro meals sparked a memory or made you hungry for a taste of the past, don't forget to like and share this video. And if you want more nostalgic culinary journeys, subscribe to join us as we explore forgotten favorites and the stories behind them. Let's keep the spirit of these timeless recipes alive, one delicious memory at a time.